I haven't even had coffee yet.
You want to get coffee?
Huh?
You want to get some coffee?
I can barely hear you.
You want some coffee?
I almost went and got some, but
Go ahead.
I decided to wait.
No, go
I'm just
ahead.
gonna have my tea. It's like water with tea in it.
All right, it's up to you. Tums?
Great value peach tea drinking answer.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Shit'll kill you. It says it has vitamins in it. Oh, I never knew that before.
Nice.
I can always use more vitamins.
Always. Vitamins are always good.
So how's it going?
Good. How
How
are
was
you?
Chicago?
It was beautiful. Love it.
I still can't hear you. I don't know why. You try this.
You should be able to.
Okay, that might be better now. I have on my little earphones.
How about now?
That's better.
Good.
Yeah, the old hard of hearing.
That's okay. As long as you can hear me.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't talked to you for a long time, but hasn't been that long.
Yeah, a couple weeks.
Maybe a lot has happened to me in that last 2 weeks.
Yeah?
Yeah, you know how. Well, did I tell you about that I got into the festival?
No, congrats.
Oh, yeah, I got into the Big Laughs Comedy Festival in Sedona
Nice.
in September. So I just found out we get 8 minutes. So I don't know. I've been thinking about that and some other stuff. Been on a little bit of a low.
Yeah.
You know how it is when you get depression and I call it a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Like I go from like I don't ever actually get off the spectrum, but as long as I'm not feeling like, you know, like I don't want to be here anymore, then I'm like, well, I'm coping.
Yeah. I get it.
I don't
No,
know.
I'm
I
with
guess
you.
you get used to it. You know what I mean? You get used
Mm-hmm.
to it and you don't realize that there actually are people in this world who don't really even know what depression is.
Yeah. I've had to explain to people.
Like I can't wrap my head around that because it's like been my whole life. But um I don't know. I guess it is true that I mean, not that that there's anybody out there that's ever had a perfect life because nobody has. But I think some people live what I call charmed lives. And when you live a charmed life, you get to have a good pet pair of parents. You get to have enough so that you can have pretty much what you need and want. And just things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
And so they never have developed the kind of tools that I learned that I have, or that I'm sure a person like you has that you probably learned in therapy that now you understand why you did these things. It was because you were technically in a self-preservation mode. And so one of the biggest things I learned in therapy that was a big thing was forgive yourself for the mistakes you made when you were in self-preservation mode sometimes. Because we tend to beat ourselves up over that stuff because sometimes we do it wrong. And the thing is nobody tells you how to do it right. And so we all do it wrong. And so beating yourself up does nothing but make it worse. And I think men especially are really hard on themselves when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But I think it's getting better. There's more therapists now. There's more free therapy. I mean, you can go on YouTube and get all kinds of help as long as you look in the right places.
Right. Yeah.
You just have to watch out because some of those self-help guru types are pretty fucking dangerous.
Yeah, they
And
are.
when I look into them, I'm like, this person is not a sane person. A sane
No.
person would not tell their follower that.
Right.
And but they can be very, very charming. They can be very
Mm-hmm.
intelligent, and they have oftentimes plagiarized a lot of really smart people. And they
Mm-hmm.
don't admit that they do that. So they're coming off like this super wise person when the truth is they're just not giving any attribution to Carl Jung or any of these other guys that they may have learned this stuff from. So that's
Right.
another thing. You really have to know who you're listening to sometimes. And if they're asking you for large amounts of money up front,
Right.
if they're,
Red flag number
you
one.
know, and there's so many people that don't even know that, and that's why it's sad,
Right.
is I want to empower people so that they know what those red flags are. And they're like, wait a minute, this lady, she's really beautiful and she's really engaging and she's really
Yeah.
smart.
That's
And
the
I'm
other
paying
red flag.
her $500 a month
Right.
to get her wisdom that I could get from the local library for free.
Right.
So that's the kind of shit. I mean, it's all over my act, my comedy act. It
Sure.
just, I want you guys to feel like you can get more empowered and have more and be open to getting help, but just make sure you're getting it from the right place. That's
Right.
all. Because some of those people really are looking to take advantage of people who are at the end of their rope.
Right. Yeah, I
Like one
agree.
of them was a real tricky bitch, and she had it in her algorithm to seek out people who were specifically looking for help on suicidal ideation. So she knows who she's fucking with.
Right. That's horrible.
And she's already lost a couple of her former clients, so two self-deletion. So
Yeah.
the fact
Oh
that
my
she's
God.
not in jail makes me crazy. But anyway, I just want people to, have that knowledge of not everybody that you see, and they can be very convincing and very professional looking and all kinds of stuff, but that doesn't mean that they may not be crazy.
Right. Right. I asked my doctor. I went and got a checkup, and I asked him like why, just general like, why do you do it? How did you become a doctor? And he said, I just basically, um, I actually do it to help people. And because he gave me a story of like there was a cruise ship and one of the staff needed help, and I can't go in all the details. Basically, like he, off the clock, went and helped them, got him to the ER, got him set up, and made sure they were safe and going, on the right path. And he just, he didn't have to do any of that. It could have been like whatever. And so, it's, and what I'm trying to say is it's out of true empathy for people and compassion. It's, and
Yeah.
there isn't, and anybody who came from Oprah is a red flag. Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, fucking
Yes, I would
it's like,
totally agree with that.
I mean, look at where we're at. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and we live in a pretty
Anytime
fucked up
something
time.
becomes a situation where you have many, many people looking at one person as the sole arbiter of truth and
Right.
advice, like a Dr. Phil type, but at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, he's also making like millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
It, to me, is the difference between a guy like a Joel Olstein, is that his name? The
Mm-hmm.
millionaire billionaire
Mm-hmm.
he's technically I don't know what you call it these days. He's like a prosperity gospel type
Mm-hmm.
preacher. And that's really technically just a multi-level marketing scheme at its
Right.
core. But people like it because they think it's showing that they're getting success.
Right.
But it's also completely the opposite of what their leader Jesus said, which was to take the money out of the church.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
he
Yeah.
wasn't overturning those tables for fun. He was turning those tables over for a reason. So, I don't know, you just have to be and even researching, you know, like I had someone tell me some really good advice recently that um if you look for a person who is a therapist who is more of on the nursing side and the therapy side
Mm-hmm.
than on the medical psychiatric side, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you will have better results. Um, but sometimes you do have to be seen by the medical doctor in order to get your medications. But once you're on medications, if you
Right.
do need them, then, you get on your roll and then you're okay. And then once you're on the
Right.
medications and you wait long enough, some people don't give themselves a chance to let it actually saturate into their
Right.
body. And they're like,
Yeah.
well, I just took like 20 pills and I'm still feeling like shit. Well, it's
Right.
because your body has to it takes time for your brain chemistry to change, which is essentially what's
Mm-hmm.
happening, is your brain
Right.
is kind of stuck in a depressive loop.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's caused from your past, sometimes it's caused from your environment. But
Mm-hmm.
either way, it does the same thing to you. It messes you up. And
Right.
so what the medication does, all it does is it goes in and it reroutes your receptors into a new path. And so when the new path is starting to hit over time, eventually those really negative feelings will start to lift and you find that you will go to them less and you will have them less. And people want to say that it's some kind of weakness or, oh, you're just not strong enough without thinking
Right.
about all the things that are bothering us. We have our inherited trauma. We have our
Yeah.
life trauma. We
Mm-hmm.
have shitty food. We have bad air. We
Right.
have terrible shit that they put in our food. I
Yeah.
mean, there's alcohol. There's a lot of contributing factors that people forget about when it comes to dealing like something like depression and suicidal ideation. Sometimes we forget the science part of it. Like,
Yeah.
how many times have I actually been suffering from my suicidal ideation when the truth is I just needed a fucking sandwich
Right.
because my blood sugar had been dipping low and
Yep.
I didn't realize it, and it was causing a malfunction in my brain. What if I would have
Right.
killed myself
Yeah.
because I wasn't hungry for a sandwich? And so
Mm-hmm.
those are real things that people need to understand. Are you drinking at night? If
Mm-hmm.
you are, you're going to feel depressed the next day. Just be ready for it
Right.
because alcohol's a depressant. If you know these things, you can learn to work around these tricks that the system are trying to use against us to keep us in a depressed state. Because when you are in
Right.
a depressed state, it's harder to fight. It's
Exactly.
harder to care.
They want to
It's harder to
control
even
you.
get the strength. It's harder to have the
Right.
strength. You can't even think right half the time when you have depression. And that's part of where that suicidal thing is. You're not thinking like your normal self. Because that is not a natural human inclination unless you are injured to the point where you know you cannot live. So whether it's an illness or it's an injury that you have sustained that you know you can't live through this, sometimes the kind thing is to go ahead and just let yourself go. You understand what I'm saying?
I
That's not
get
the
it.
same as your brain fucking with you because of something from your past or something in your environment or something in or out of your system even. And so we need to know more about our biology. We need to know more about, and that's what I'm studying now. And it's a huge part of the things that I sprinkle throughout my my comedy because it is really empowering to know that you do have the ability to beat these things if you know what they are. If you don't know what they are, you're just spending your whole life confused.
Right. Yeah. If you don't recognize the problem, if you don't know what the problem is exactly, then you're not be able to fix it.
It's like every guy I've known throughout my life who was a physical abuser, and I've known many, and I can see it because a lot of times they completely black out the next day. They don't even remember what happened. And it's because they don't understand their own brain chemistry. And this comes back most often to the fact that this person was abused at a time of their life when that was disrupted. So people, when they
Yeah.
get into these certain ways of being, they're literally just kind of emotionally still a toddler.
Hmm.
And so they have these huge feelings like a toddler, but in a big grown
Yeah.
man's body. And
Right.
so until they understand that and are willing to accept that that's what needs to be worked on, because they get demonized and they do demonize themselves as well. And what there's truly is happening is they're suffering from a mental illness.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, as a person that's a survivor of that shit many
Hmm.
times, if you're in that situation, get out because it, being there's not going to help it, and you are only endangering yourself.
Yeah.
That's it, period. So it takes a while. They say it takes a woman about 7 tries before she can actually get out of an abusive relationship. So don't also beat yourself up if you do go back, because people will be like, well, why is she going back? I know why. I know exactly why. Because I've lived it. Because she's not in her right mind, okay? She is living under an extremely oppressive situation. She is in 100% survival mode. And so she's not thinking like you do normally. And so it is its own form of temporary insanity. When you are in an abusive relationship, a lot of times for both parties. And so, like with my situation, I knew I had to go because death was the only way out. He was gonna kill me, or I was gonna end up killing him,
Yeah.
or I was going to kill myself. Those were the only three options out of that shit. And well, none of those were acceptable to me.
Yeah.
And so I just said, time to go. And he hit me the last time, and I got on an airplane that night and went back to Alaska. But when you get out of it, after years of being out of it, is when you realize I wasn't even in my right mind. Like, I came back home and I didn't even recognize myself in the mirror. I had put on a ton of weight, and obviously from the stress and the depression of being in a very abusive relationship with a guy who did nothing but isolate me and abuse me daily. So it's no wonder I feel like it had to have been a form of me trying to find something that I could use to protect myself. And it's been, let's see, I left him in 2000, so that's how long is that?
25 and a half, I
Is
guess,
it
maybe.
really that
You said
long?
2000, yeah, so
Holy shit. Wow.
we're in the middle
Yep,
of
that
26.
is 26. Okay, so I have been single for 26 years.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
I didn't have another, not even a boyfriend.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a few guys that I hung out with as mutual, whatever you call it, friend with benefit type things, but
Hmm.
very rarely. And you had to be a pretty special person
I was gonna say you
to
have
for
to
me to
trust them.
be Yeah, I just had, and I had no desire to have relationships. It was like, if you want to hang out, we'll eat or we'll hang out, watch a movie or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. That's cool.
Right.
But I never will again in my life let a man think that he has some kind of right to control me because that's what they always end up wanting. And I don't know what that's about, but that's a whole
Right.
other like psychological thing I'm trying to understand about
Episode
myself.
3, Controlling
Yeah.
Men. Yeah.
What's wrong with,
Fuck.
well, and it's not just
Right.
men, women do it too,
Right.
but
Women do too.
men are much more aggressive and hurtful about it is the problem. Women are
Right.
sneakier, and I mean, not like I'm trying to stereotype the sexes, but
No, but
just,
that's the difference between men and women is men are physical and women are psychological, like as far as like abusers go, and
yeah.
because it's like it. Yeah, I get it, and I agree. I've had different friends that are women or girlfriends or whatever, and you can tell by how they think, and I had a friend, and she literally was like speaking her mind, and I just watched her do it, and I was like, holy shit. And she verbalized like her whole thought pattern, and she wasn't like, I wasn't saying she was that, but it was like interesting to see and hear her what she was saying, and all that. And it's so yeah. And I had a ex-girlfriend, and she had been sexually assaulted, and so she was she she was in a different mindset, and I was very naive and gullible, and so she would say certain things or do certain things, and because I was very naive, and at the time I was really in love with her, and but I was also really young, and so she was able to convince me of stuff, and so, but yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think that it's hard because men are trained in our culture to avoid feeling, even their own
right,
feelings. So having to try to cope with someone else's, especially a female's
mm-hmm,
feelings, which a lot of times are much bigger and more, uh, they affect us more somehow. I don't know
mm-hmm,
why. I don't know if it's our hormonal makeup or whatever, but,
yeah,
and it's not to say that there aren't people of the sexes on both sides we're all a spectrum, right? And so I think that that's the other thing that people don't always remember is that's why, like, for me, being like just 100% solo and just being cool with keeping people from a distance works for me, and I'm okay with it. It's A, I'm used to it, and B, I find that I do tend to end up in situations that are very negative, that I haven't been able to figure out why. If it's me, there's something about me,
hmm,
because not like necessarily even a bad thing, but there is something about me and the
mm-hmm,
way I approach things that seems to piss men off
mm-hmm,
sometimes. And I think it's because I grew up with a single mom and she was extremely independent and she took care of everything. She was mom and dad. And
mm-hmm,
so we were very independent as young girls. My sister and I, it was just three of us.
mm-hmm,
And so we just became really independent in a lot of ways from really young ages. And it's kind of
mm-hmm,
normal because my mom was like an Irish farm girl and she had like
mm-hmm,
seven brothers and sisters. And so she grew up, you know how it was back then when my grandpa farmed back in Montana.
mm-hmm.
You didn't have kids for fun. You had kids to help
Yeah,
you
labor
work
force.
the damn farm. I mean, that's
Right,
what happened. And so
right,
it wasn't like come and sit on my lap, sonny boy. It was just a completely different time and a different way of parenting and a different way of being.
mm-hmm,
And so our generation of kids, I'm assuming you're Gen X too. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like we were the crossroads of that old-timey American and then this really high-tech new shit. We are
Yeah.
right in between that,
The
not just
transition.
physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, the way we
Mm-hmm.
view the world and everything, you know? And
Right.
so, and we are kind of Gen X, is kind of the lost generation. I think that's why we are suffering from a Gen X suicide
Mm.
epidemic right now, because I think there's a lot of people our age that we kind of got left behind. You know, we were ignored by the politicians. We just we've always, in my opinion, been a little bit of a lost generation. But I think right now we have the age and the resources that we could collectively, just as a group, make our own coalition or our own decision making to make up for the fact that we didn't have a voice during the 90s and the early
Right.
thousands, because in a lot of ways it was stolen from us through
Mm.
manipulation. And so it's hard for me as a person who believes in working outside of the system. I don't believe the system can be fixed from within. That's my personal belief. I think it is too funky and corrupt,
Yeah.
and that because of that, it's not fixable, but that you can take good things from it.
Right.
You know, the founding fathers didn't necessarily come up with all of these ideas on their own. There were other people that were working through this enlightenment process to where they were like, well, at least we can let all white men of means be free from the monarchy. I mean, which is essentially where it started.
Right.
It really wasn't about all this religious freedom like they tricked us into believing. It was really about rich, white, wealthy guys wanting more land. And that's what they did. And they didn't want to be under the rules of the monarchy, which was
Right.
how we get our revolutions, which ultimately ended up being good things because it brought more freedom and prosperity for more people than this planet has ever seen in its entire whatever, since we know of history
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
sometimes you have to just take some of the good things and say, well, what doesn't work and what's shitty, and how can we
Exactly.
work around that? Do we have the brains and the smarts and the creativity and the resources? For sure. We definitely do. I believe in us 1,000%. And I'm not trying to be an American exceptionalist because I think that's rooted in white supremacy.
Exactly.
But I do believe that we are a unique country with a unique history that has more potential than any
Right.
country ever has had.
Right. I
And so
agree.
that's how I look at us. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
No,
as a
I do.
whole.
I do. And my thing is, I want to add to that. We are, and because we were like clay and molded, and we get in. On the timeline and the history of this country, we create great things, and originally they're only created for a certain group of people, but like the Constitution. But through time, you know, the people who wrote it didn't anticipate other groups of people or other races of people or whatever to come in and for women
Well,
to be
because
included on that.
yeah,
And
they weren't expecting all the civil disobedience, which is
right,
ironic considering that's what the country's founded on.
right.
That's
So
why
yeah,
all of this complacency stuff makes me really worried sometimes
yeah,
but anyway, go ahead.
yeah. Well, I just yeah, and then we basically my point is we get to a point like in my opinion our generation and our parents generation, I want to say like the 60s, they were on their way, and they could have, taken it, but because of the government and in this, the 70s and all that, that repressed, or oppressed people, like, and then you had drugs and all that. So then you had our generation come up in the 90s, and I thought, I liked our generation. You don't have to have it. You don't have to hide that. But I don't know what went wrong, and so then you had all these people who voted, for Trump, and it's like, well, what happened? Don't you, because
They're
why,
my
we
age. They're our age.
right, and it's like, so what are you doing? Like, I remember in my 20s, I would even go back to where my mom lived, and I'd start to see, some kids, of younger kids, they were out, they were gay, like, and they were out, and so you see these little things, and it's
Was
like,
that in
so
California though?
this is in Alaska, in Wrangell.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'd go back and and I'd talk to friends after, after high school, and or during, and it's like everybody had this personal enlightenment moment where they experience things. They'd go places, travel, or this and that, or just, you know, we had a pop culture where it was all about voting and equal rights and all this stuff. You'd watch MTV and all, and it was cool, and it was, it was
Rock
corny,
the
but
vote kind
rock
of
the
stuff.
vote and all these
Yeah. I remember that.
campaigns. Right, and like the biggest rock band was Nirvana, and Nirvana was like, they're one of the things they wrote on the inside sleeve to the album Incesticide was, don't listen to us if you're basically a bigot. Don't listen to us if you hate gay people, if you're racist. Respect women and all that. That's I grew up with, so I took all that shit in. It wasn't a gimmick to me, and I think it was sincere. But through
Well,
time, I
especially
think.
when you look at what they were reacting to, which
Right.
was the manipulation, in my opinion, of the arts through the government, through certain
Right.
agencies who shall remain nameless, but
Hmm.
that they would use, and they proved they were doing that shit back with the news back in the 60s anyway, with
Hmm.
those hearings. Remember that?
Right.
Anyway, so as they're now coming out now, thank goodness, because I have been waiting for this for fucking, oh my God, I don't even know how long, since the 90s.
Hmm.
Because I didn't like gangster rap, okay? And people would make fun of me and they're like, why? Why? And I'm like, I have my reasons.
Hmm.
And, but I'm not going to sit there and tell people if I feel like I'm going to end up getting in some debate. I mean, if people want to know, then I'll tell them, but I'm
Hmm.
not there to get in a fight.
Right.
It's just, I felt like I had gone from the rap that I had knew, like Sugar Hill Gang
All the
or
original hip hop
the elect,
pioneers. Yeah.
yeah, Digital Underground,
Right.
things like that that were always about uplifting the community.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
I.
it was
Yeah.
about, and so I loved that shit. When
Hmm.
they started talking about boom boom and beating up hoes and
Right.
getting and strapping, and I was like, I don't like that. And it turned out because I adopted a black granny in church when I was like 8, as I grew up with that family, as I got older, would adopt their grandkids, nieces, and nephews. And so they were all various shades of black and white.
Hmm.
And but as they got older and moved to the bigger cities, they one of them ended up getting involved with that kind of a lifestyle.
Hmm.
Got killed, got himself killed at the age of, I think he was, I don't even think he was 21 yet. Broke my fucking heart, man. I babysat that kid. And I had a little bit of a beef with gangster rap for that shit, for glorifying and glamorizing that lifestyle.
Right.
Then we find out years later about these record executives that were actually behind it, who had nothing to do with any kind of street living or anything. There was nothing authentic about it.
Right.
So anyway, it turns out I was right on that, and that perhaps we could have avoided some of this inner city turmoil had these assholes not sold out their own people for some fucking lyrics. Sorry, I shouldn't talk like that, I know, but
I get what you're saying. I also want to add that it's like, I think that it became a gimmick, and it, like I say, I like the music, but I
do you think
prefer.
it puts you in like a negative mind space?
I don't think so. In my opinion, I just listen to it for the art's sake, but in the music. But
But I
I
understand that people will say as the art's sake, and I agree. When
right,
you're talking about somebody like Biggie Smalls or somebody like that, that was a real street guy and who really had a real natural talent.
right,
My bummer was just that he could have used some of that talent also to do some more positive things, but
right.
maybe he
I
did, and I just never gave him a chance.
I think
That's
that
also possible.
I think that you I think it's like I said, you have the transition from like conscious hip hop or rap music to gangster rap, and it's like a there's two things that can exist at the same time, and
I
I
agree. And I think
I
that people that listen to it do. I don't think that when they're listening to it, they're necessarily listening to it to fuel their criminality. I think people like it because it's rebellious, it has a good beat, the
right.
lyrics are funny sometimes, or really, well, intellectual, you know? I
It's
mean, I think all of that
right.
stuff is cool. I mean, I like a couple Tupac songs. I mean,
Tupac's great.
I love Lauryn Hill and, them, and I
She's
always
yeah.
like a little
She's
Wu-Tang here and there.
so there. So okay, I want to add that like the government contributed to it too because the FBI, they they started to investigate and they started to harass and do different things to fuck with artists. But then you had the other
Yeah.
side of it where you had Suge Knight who was like he was for real, like he was a blood, and like he had connections with like the LAPD, and there's all that, like they
He was a
never,
real thug.
he's a real deal, and so you had that element, and and because a lot of times, because of how things are structured and created, um, that's how that's how some people thought that they could rise up and succeed, because they didn't have opportunities and all. But
Well, yeah,
I'm simplifying it,
exactly. But you
but
know what? It's not that I don't relate and understand about, an underground street poet who's fucking with the system. I get that. And I know that they did a lot of that too. To them, they're equating that as doing, in my opinion, self-destructive things, as opposed to taking that same energy and applying it to things that would have been more positive. But you did see some things like when you had things like, I mean, the Bloods and the Crips were really more than just gangs. They were social bridges, they
well,
were
yeah,
protection because the police didn't help those
right.
communities. So it was almost
They
like
made
they
it
were turning
worse.
it into their own policing, self-policing.
Right. So, right, exactly. Gangs, people don't understand. Like, we have a problem in this country where, in general, people don't look at like the root cause of things. Like the reason they're gangs, just through the history of it, is because you know, your city government or your town government or whatever, or the federal government can't provide what you need because it's corrupt. So guess what? The Black Panthers were formed, okay, because certain needs weren't being met and they're being harassed by the cops. And like law enforcement itself wasn't even created to protect people. It was to originally created to protect, you know, the slave owners and the, you know, then through the down the line you come up to modern day. So you know, like I said, the Panthers, they took up arms. You have people that knowledge of their rights, and they, you know, and they start to create programs, and it's like it you know, look at reservations, like why, you know, it's the same thing where they want to oppress people and all that. So it's like you have these things that were never dealt with. So bring it
Yeah.
to now, and so it's like you have people from the streets, and they they see these opportunities, and that's how they think. But my point is, the gangs were started because, you know, the crit was it the Bloods, the originally the guy who formed that gang originally was a Black Panther, and they like he wanted to use the guy who formed the Latin Kings. Same thing. He wanted to, you know, he used the gangs to get what he wants. Malcolm X worked with was it Frank White, and they together would fight law enforcement, and
Yeah.
you know, and they would fight that he like Frank White had tons of pull back in the day, and especially for like for a black man who's, you know, head of like, you know, basically black mafia, and you know, so it's like that's what people understand, and you know, it's
Well,
like
yeah,
and
because there's so
it's
much
just
history.
generations, right? There's
It's
time,
hard it's hard to like try to explain to a kid today
right?
that a black kid, let's say, well, the reason you have fewer opportunities than your white buddies is because back in this time period, there was something called Jim Crow laws because
Mm-hmm.
former slaves were doing too well and the white man couldn't have
Yeah, they
that
didn't like
shit.
that, so they took
And
it
so
out,
they had to
right?
start regulating and doing all of these things to keep, well, all of that led to what we now call poverty in the inner cities.
Right.
So is it because these people can't work or won't work or don't work? Or is it because they gave up trying because the white man wouldn't let them?
I mean,
So
it's pretty
what are you
peculiar.
going to do then?
Right,
What are you going to do if, how are you going to feed your kids?
right,
So then it just turns into this cycle of pain where people who are
right,
hurting abuse substances
right.
then get put into the community as a form of, in my
There,
opinion, keeping people down. I mean,
right.
I call it the Great Opium Wars Part 3. That's what, or 2.
Right,
It's about 3 is really what we're dealing with now, but
right.
with fentanyl shit. But because really it was during the 90s that we had Part 2
With the
where we
epidemic
started
and the
flooding
crack
in not
cocaine,
just
yeah.
that, but then, and that's when like the big corporations, big pharma and shit started fucking with the laws to make
That's
it
when
so
the
that the doctors
right,
could prescribe as many opiates as they
this
wanted to, and
the
people were
Statler
just
family,
dying.
right,
Yes, they're still free. The whole family
right.
is still
Well,
free.
when you're
I
rich
have a
and
whole bit
white,
about that.
yeah. Well, so we can add this to the subject. So you know, and I when I
They make me
read,
crazy.
no, it is crazy, and you know, it's like you have all these black and brown people in prison for drugs, and
Yeah.
it's like, but the Statler family creates something that's like 10 times worse than crack. Not that it's saying crack is good, but it's like they do something
Well,
worse, and they
no.
get off it, and they created the whole problem, and it's like originally, you know, crack was created by the CIA to take over, you know, the black community. I mean, there's it goes on and on,
Huh?
but the point is, it's like we America, we have great things, and then we take 5 steps forward, and then we throw ourselves back, you know, 10 steps, I guess you would say,
It
and
does
it's like
seem
we
like
could be the
that,
greatest.
especially when you're talking about the way that the craziness that has been our presidency alone. just since the '80s, since Ronald Reagan. For me,
That fucking
everything
guy.
started at Ronald Reagan. That was when
Well,
even
he's
I, at 10 years old, knew it. I was like, "That's
yeah,
bullshit." I
yeah.
was like, "That's not a real president."
I
just,
watched I watched
I don't
the
know.
Contra hearings when I was a kid. I didn't
Yeah.
fight on it, but I was like, wait, so they're talking about Reagan. Who is this fucking guy Oliver North?
You
Like,
could,
I mean, you
you
look at
could tell.
right, you
You
look at
could
punk
just
rock music.
tell.
You take the '60s and the all the young hippie white kids. They saw some, so they created, so they were knocked down. Then you had the '70s with the white kids who were like the second generation of that, or even back in the '50s with the beatniks. And it's like
Yeah.
they once you had white kids who were starting to integrate themselves with philosophies of non-white people. You had the hippies that took environmental philosophies from native chiefs. You had
Yeah.
you had the beatniks that were listening to jazz, and so they were starting to like wanted to learn more about that. When you had I saw this documentary on drugs, and basically like when black and I think specifically more Mexicans started to get high with like these white suburban women, it freaked out the husbands because they didn't give a shit before. Because you could get a dope habit and get some pills and chill out. Well, once black folks and Latinos got into it, it's like on and on peyote taken from native people, and you got white people using it, and on and on and on.
They finally had to make it illegal to
Right.
harvest.
We don't
I
want
mean,
that.
and so now, no, I know, especially with the peyote, because it's so rare, you gotta let it just be to do its thing. Because if you don't, I mean, I believe if you fuck with it, you're fucking with the spirit of it. And if you're
Yeah.
fucking with the spirit of it, is it gonna do the job you really want it to do, which is to
Exactly.
connect you to the spirit? So,
Right.
anyway, that's a whole other thing for me.
Right.
But
But the point is, and you could, but depression is in this whole situation where it's like you have people looking for a better way or just a different way because their
for
conditions are
sure,
shit, and it's like yeah, you're right. You're gonna be if your basic bodily human functions aren't being met and taken care of.
yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna be homeless people. Have you ever talked to somebody who's been homeless for a while? And you make fun of them and like and it's
No,
like,
I'd
well,
never
why do you?
make fun of 'em.
No, I'm not you. I'm just saying in general, like this stigma, and it's like you don't even understand the problem. I've been homeless, and I
I
felt
have
that, and
almost been homeless. In
and
fact, I
it
have been in homeless shelters.
and it
So that's
sucks,
it, buddy. When you are that close, you know it's not funny.
and it's
You
right.
know it's not funny. And
It's
it's
not funny,
like,
and
I mean,
it's
I
like
can laugh at a homeless joke, but I'm just saying, come on, man. Let's have a little compassion, because just because a person is homeless does not make them a loser. There are currently women living out of their cars
right,
who have 3 jobs,
right,
including one of them as a teacher.
right.
Okay?
That's the
She's
other
got a
yes,
degree in
right,
education and she's living in her car. I'm like, okay, we can't do better than this.
right,
Everybody I know knows that we can do better than this. So why are we not? Well, that's
right.
what we got to find out. And you got to get smart people on that shit. I have a
Yeah,
lot of ideas, but I don't
right.
have any actual, like, I would love to like create my own roster. Like, I would love to have a political analyst, a real non-biased political analyst, um, an economist.
Hmm.
I'd like to have um different kinds of analysts who are the smart people that really are out there, but that we never get to listen to. We always get
Right.
stuck listening to these pompous assholes. As Frank Zappa said, politicians are the entertainment division of the military industrial complex. And
Basically,
I will always
especially right
believe
now.
that. They're just
Yeah.
really just there to make sure that we don't get too wild, to make sure that we
Right.
stay as dumb as possible, and to make sure
Right.
that we keep making that money so we can buy the shit that they're making money off of with their investments, which are all illegal. And so we have some really deep bad things happening, and I think people just want to tune it out because
Yeah.
it is hard and it is depressing. And
Right.
it is, but that's like for a person like me, it has impacted my entire life. when you give a shit, it is a lot harder,
Of course.
and everything hurts more,
Yeah.
and you get angry more, and so it does, and it has kept me in a low grade depression, caring.
Sure.
I just have never been able to lose it though. I've never had that ability to just say, fuck it, let it go, fuck all this craziness.
Right.
And that's what my whole podcast is going to be based on. Um, I don't know if I told you about my podcast I'm going to make soon called The Freak Show Dispatch.
Nice.
And it's based on a bit that George Carlin did that really helps keep me sane. Because he taught me that you have to limit the amount that you care because it can make you crazy. And I have been on that precipice many times of, okay, it's time
Yeah.
for me to jump. I just can't take this shit anymore. But
Right.
his advice helped me see, no, wait, look, you can do this different.
Mm-hmm.
And so his bit was, when you're born into the world, you're born into the freak show.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're born in America, you get a front row seat.
Exactly.
And so that bit is actually going to be my first episode, and I'm doing it with puppets. You want to see my
Nice.
puppets? Let me go get them.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a little set that I have over here that I'm going to be using. And these are little finger puppets that I got on eBay. And I got this little suitcase to put them in.
Nice.
And so this one is CC. He's the curiosity cat. I feel like I'm just doing an ad for my podcast now.
That's okay.
I haven't really started it yet. I'm just starting to work on it, but this is CC cat. He's the curiosity cat. He's curious. And this is Raven Lunatic. And he also is very curious, but he tries to keep CC brave. We're gonna go look at some crazy shit, and we have this magical wheel that you spin.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get your different subjects. And then this is Puant. This is Puant, the news reporter.
He's a
And
scumbag.
Puant, it literally is French for stinky.
Nice.
And you know it's going to smell when you're dealing with the news.
Yeah.
So Puant seemed appropriate to me.
Mm.
And then we have Rocky the Raccoon, which, yes, is also a reference to the Beatles song. But he's around too, but he's kind of stealth, like people don't know. He just shows up once in a while, then he
Mm-hmm.
disappears. And he's always causing this mischief and nobody else knows. They know something happened behind him, but they don't know what it is. So he's kind of like the
Yeah.
mystery. And then finally we have our brown squirrel, which I can't remember your name off the top of my head now. But it's very squirrely. It's always running around, getting into trouble, causing problems and issues.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's them. This is the crew for the podcast, and we're going to be learning all
Nice.
about emotional intelligence, and we're going to be learning about things like media literacy, and we're going to be learning about things that are really empowering
Wow. Nice.
for people. And so yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm hoping at some point to get the puppet company to sponsor me.
There we go. There we go.
These things
Hell yeah.
aren't just for kids. Sometimes you can even use them as a grown up.
Hell yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
it's
cool.
it's all kind of intertwined together.
No, that's great. That's great. Well, Amie, are you okay with ending it here?
We already talked a whole hour. I can't
A whole
believe it.
hour. I got.
And I
I.
wasn't even that funny again.
You're pretty. I mean, you don't have to be
I
funny
should bring
all the
some
time.
jokes next time. I'll bring material. I'll actually bring
Okay.
my books.
Cool.
Because I keep feeling like people are like, this is Amie Dee comedy. Yeah, but when is she funny? She's always talking about
Well,
attacking the
this is the
system.
right. This is the other side of comedy. Is like the what you really think, and not all comedians are goofy and funny. You don't have to be.
Yeah, yeah. I don't ever take off my shirt. Ever.
Right.
Sorry, guys. Shit, sorry, Bert. I had to say it. Okay, well,
So
thanks again. We'll have to
thank
talk
you.
again.
You too. I'm gonna post this. I'm gonna post the other episode. I'm gonna get this thing going. I created
Okay.
I created the channel on YouTube, so I'm gonna start getting it going, and then I'll send you a link when it's up.
Yeah, I like that. And I'll try to add it to my list of links too on my
Okay.
YouTube channel.
All right.
And I'll send it to a bunch of people. We'll try to get a bunch of
Cool.
views.
All right. Hey, and then I'm gonna talk to one of my guests on my other show and see if she can come on and discuss depression. What she goes through, and
Sure.
I think all this is important.
My roommate and I have been talking about it a lot, and she's just got her master's degree in positive psychology.
Well,
So
there we
she might
go.
be a really cool person to have on too sometime.
Yeah.
So she could just
No,
hang out right here.
she could join you. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, she's really fun too, animated person, so
That's great too. That'll
she'll probably be
people will
funnier than
listen.
me. Wouldn't it be funny if she came on and was like, Carrot Top or something, just like
That would be
hysterical?
funny with props. Yes. All right, Amie. I love you.
All
You have a
right.
good day. All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you. You too. Have a good one.
All
Bye. See you next time.
right.